Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome, one and all. It's time for the Books That Make You show. I'm your host, Desiree Duffy, and we're talking about books that make you just want to have fun with some hysterical rhymes. And today we're going to introduce you to a very prolific children's book author who does just that. Children learn through rhyming, don't they? And sometimes they might find some benefits, actually, through scary stories. And they certainly have fun exploring Whimsical World, which is an innovative children's brand with a mission to inspire, delight, and educate children of all ages. Today, let's meet Derek Taylor Kent. Not only is he the author of the BookFest Award-Winning Hysterical Rhymes book, but he is probably best known for his 4-book middle grade series, Scary School, which was published by HarperCollins. He has a bilingual children's book, El Perro con Sombrero, which was published by Holt-Macmillan. Other popular picture books include The Grossest Picture Book Ever, love that, Dinosaur Derby, which I think we see there in the background, and there it is, and his latest, Kaboom. Now, here's the thing, I have to keep going on and on. Derek, you have this incredible resume, and I met you and your wife, Sherry, years ago at a writer's conference. Right. And you guys are the founders of Whimsical World, which we're going to learn more about. It's this children's brand, and it does so many different things to inspire and educate kids of all ages. And it helps with self-esteem and achieving high things in life. And you do so much to spread the joy of learning through your live events and school visits, speaking appearances, pop-up shows that you do all over the world. Derek, thank you for everything you do. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Desiree. It's great to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you because I want to hit on a little bit on everything because you've got so much going on. So let's start with Hysterical Rhymes. This is the book that you can kind of see. There it is, kind of behind me. And I know you have there.
I have a copy here. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Beautiful cover.
With the awesome BookFest Award seal, which was a very nice honor.
The art on that is great, and the book is so delightful. Can you tell us? Give us Hysterical Rhymes in a nutshell.
Well, Hysterical Rhymes has hundreds of hilarious poems inside that I've kind of been writing throughout my entire life. I've been writing poetry. I've been obsessed with poetry since I was like 10 years old. I've always loved writing silly poems that would make my friends laugh. And as I grew older, I started studying form more and more. And my first children's books were always in kind of a lyrical rhythmic rhyme, similar to a Dr. Seuss style. So inspiring kids to fall in love with reading through laughter has always probably been my number one goal with my writing. And with Hysterical Rhymes, it's so great because you can absorb it in little chunks, poems can be as short as 2 to 4 lines or as long as several pages. It just really gets into all the different types of forms of poetry. But not only does it have a lot of fun poems to read, there's also lessons as you go along and how children can actually learn to write their own poetry. So if you have any kids who are maybe getting interested in writing, whether it's stories or poetry, this is the perfect book for them. Kind of the book I wish I had when I was that age. That could have taught me about all the different types of poems and how to actually do it correctly in a way that not many people learn these days in terms of meter and rhythm and knowing how to fully understand poetry also. And that's great is I was able to team up with one of the best illustrators alive, Travis Hansen, who's very well known for his comic strips and comic books, The Life of the Party, and a lot more. But he did the most hilarious illustrations that accompany each of the poems.
Yeah, the illustrations are fabulous, and the poetry is fabulous. You do something very interesting. You talk about how you educate a little bit too about the meter and the verses. And I remember when I learned about that, I think I was at least in middle school, if not high school. And you're
Mm.
introducing this, and I think that's really great, introducing this to children even at a younger age so they can learn as they're exploring and discovering poetry.
Yeah, it's just like learning music. How early would you introduce children to music? Nowadays, I know we have our daughter here who's probably about to start music classes, just 18 months old. It's something that I think people have realized is ingrained so much in our humanity, just like a sense of rhythm, music, and poetry is just another form of that, really.
And using humor as well to inspire the love of reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that infusing humor into education is helpful to kids?
Well, I know humor is what got me to fall in love with reading. I had a pretty difficult time with it at first when I was first starting to read proper chapter books. I remember at that age, whether I was between 8 and 10 years old, right? I was being fed a lot of books that I feel like people thought were the classics that would be amazing if I was this advanced. I should be reading these. And it got me, I think they were very intimidating. I didn't understand it, or I thought they were boring at that age, but I was finally shown books that made me laugh. I remember the first one that my favorite ones were the Sideways School Stories from Wayside School series by Louis Sachar. And Dr. Dolittle. When I could laugh along with the books and realize that books could be hilarious and not necessarily boring is when I really started to seek out reading more, which led to a lifelong love of reading in all genres, really. And so I think tapping into that and making reading fun and something as a fun activity for kids is a really important first step toward developing that lifelong love of reading that will help everyone throughout their whole lives succeed.
And you write bilingual English,
Mm-hmm.
Spanish books as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I also love languages, language learning. I've studied 5 languages in my life. I studied, of course, English and Spanish for many years. Latin I took for 7 years. Italian I studied in college, and Hebrew through my childhood. So I just always maybe had a little bit of a knack for it, but maybe it's because I loved it so much. I loved being able to communicate with different people, and also just maybe for my writing. I think it always just helped with my writing, having all these cool different word choices to use, but when you read in different languages, they use word and language differently, and I like to incorporate all those differences into my writing. But as I started doing all my school visits for my Scary School series, which came out first, I started visiting a lot of dual immersion schools where they have an equal immersion program in English and Spanish here in Southern California. They're very popular. And they were telling me they had a real lack of bilingual books that they needed, especially ones that the kids could really love and latch onto. So that's another thing. I said, oh, maybe that's something I can help out with, since I love not only humor but language learning. I'll start writing write books in English and Spanish. And I was inspired by my dog, Xander. When I first got my dog, he was hilarious. Loved to put him in different outfits with fun hats. And I said, oh, you in Spanish, you'd be el perro con sombrero, the dog in the hat. And I thought it was kind of funny, huh? It's funny how in Spanish, the dog in the hat rhymes, but in English, cat in the hat rhymes.
That's hilarious. Yeah, you're right. I love that.
So I wrote that story. I think it kind of just wrote itself once I thought of the title, about a homeless dog who doesn't have a family. But then a lucky sombrero lands on his head and turns his life around, becomes a movie star dog, but he's still sad because he doesn't have a family. So it also has really important themes that I'm also passionate about, like adoption and pet adoption.
And one of the things that you touched on already is scary stories. And I think it's fascinating.
There's that book.
Oh, there it is. Yay.
And there he is. You mentioned it. I thought I'd show it to everyone.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
As you can see, it's written in English and Spanish. It's English on top and Spanish underneath. So you can read it in either language for kids who are learning either one of the languages, really. And there's even a fun cat in it. And it became a whole series now. There's the sequel came out recently, and I have a Christmas bilingual doggy book also, Doggy Claus Perro Noel.
Fabulous, fabulous. And you really are touching on something for so many different tastes and just genres of children's books. And I do want to talk to you about your adult books. But first, I'm so curious. So writing scary stories, psychologists apparently say that this can be beneficial for children's development. Is that what led you to write your scary story series?
Yeah, I don't know if I was thinking necessarily about, I'm going to help with kids' psychology, but I knew that I wanted to help combine horror and humor, two things I also love. So I thought the combination of those could be really fun. But I also was talking a lot about my own school experiences, that I had a really tough time, especially when I went to a new school for the first time. I didn't know anybody there at the new school, and I was already very shy. So it's just very difficult for me to find a place and make new friends, and how it was just absolutely terrifying for me. And I thought about that fear that I felt just going to school each day, and how we could heighten it and make it into something funny to help other kids who might be going through similar experiences at their schools. So I thought of the idea for a school where regular kids and monster kids go to school together for the first time, like zombie kids, vampire kids, werewolf kids, and all the teachers are scary, like T-Rexes and dragons who eat you if you don't follow the rules. So we kind of follow, this is book one of the Scary School series. It became in four books came out, and it won the Big Book Award for funniest chapter book of the year when it came out.
Fantastic.
So we follow the exploits of, we follow several of the students who are the main characters, who figure out how they can survive at first, but then also all the students, those humans and monsters, learn to get along and also become really good friends with each other throughout the series.
Of course.
And speaking of the psychological benefits you mentioned, I found out as I was writing it that it's like they say that reading scary stories to children, having them get into it at that age when it starts to they start to be kind of more interested in it, it's really beneficial because it helps them start to deal with those nightmare scenarios that can run through kids' heads, keeps them up at night, give them night terrors even. So it helps them confront all of these fears in a safe way. So when it's kind of at a distance or being humorized through a story, they can sort of internally experience all of these different fears and anxieties, so that when these things do happen in real life, it isn't so overwhelming, right? They'll be able to learn how the characters in the stories handle them as a model for how they can handle difficult, fearful, anxiety-inducing situations in a strong and healthy way.
And marrying going to school, because you're right, that's scary, but that's a different kind of scary than being afraid of zombies and vampires. But bringing that together, because if you shelter a child a lot of times from the zombies and the scary stuff that's out there, not that you should expose them to some of the real horrific stuff out there, but I have to imagine, like you say, when you're approaching it with a little bit of humor and then marrying that with a real world experience like going to school, because that is terrifying, that just adds another dimension to their growth and their learning.
Yeah, for sure. The students at the school go through all sorts of things that any kid at school would kind of go through at a normal school. But when you have it in this crazy, silly situation, it allows the kids to be able to kind of take a step back and laugh at themselves in their own situations, maybe, and realize, maybe put things in perspective a little bit. At least I not going to a school where a giant squid is going to attack me when I try to cross a moat into the front entrance. Or one of my other favorite characters, ones that the readers seem to latch onto the most, is this character here named Petunia.
Uh-huh.
She's half flower and half girl. So she's completely purple from head to foot. So she looks weird even at scary school. And because she's half flower, she has bees flying around her all the time. So nobody wants to come close to her. So when even she is, having a lot of trouble making friends, and especially thought of weird at a school where you have an ogre sitting next to you and a vampire on the other side. I kind of used her as almost as another model for myself, actually. She's someone who loves to read and write stories, and kind of takes a step back and tries to write about her own experiences through the story that she's going through. So it's all kind of like, it's a weird situation for her. It's obviously something that's very, very strange, but everyone can hopefully relate to that thing of feeling bullied, like when she gets bullied by the other kids, and how to deal with that and come to terms with it.
Such great lessons for kids to learn and to experience through your character. I think it's wonderful too that you've infused yourself into this character. That leads me to Whimsical World. Can you give us the rundown? What exactly is Whimsical World?
So my wife, Sherry Fink, is also a children's book author. We've both started around the same time. Interestingly enough, like our first books both came out around 2011. We were at a lot of the same events, but we didn't kind of officially meet until we were both invited to a school visit together back in 2016. They had a big author day. I think they had about 20 different authors there, and we just happened to be two of the authors there, and that's where we kind of met in person for the first time. And we started dating shortly after that. And after we got married, we decided to kind of combine our brands together. I didn't really have an official brand yet, just kind of me as the author. Derek Taylor Kent was doing a lot of different things. But she had a lot of hardcore marketing expertise and know-how, and she created this whole kind of perfect brand for herself called The Whimsical World of Sherry Fink. So when we got married, we kind of combined our books and imaginations together into this new brand just called Whimsical World. And as you said earlier, our mission at Whimsical World is to inspire, delight, and educate children of all ages while planting seeds of self-esteem and high achievement. And we do that through all sorts of different ways, from our books that you can read to our live events, pop-up shops, speaking engagements. We throw parties for kids that are themed around our books and lessons that we like to teach. So we can, our books are so different. We have over 35 titles now between us that are covering every sort of message and theme you could possibly imagine. So a lot of schools will invite us to come and do an anti-bullying program for their kids. They're coming to invite us to do a bilingual program for their kids. It could be about just inspiring that love of reading and writing when they're really promoting literacy at their school, trying kids maybe to stop playing so much video games and start picking up books more. So that's kind of what we specialize in. And now we've been together since that time, like in 2016, and just keep plugging away. We started this great publishing company together, and now we have our own kids. So we maybe slow down just a little bit while we're raising these our baby girl, and maybe another one on the way soon, hopefully. But we'll see.
All right, you heard it here first. I love that.
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. Mum's the word for now. It's really phenomenal, Derek, everything that you and Sherry have done together. I mean, 35 books, I know 19 or so are yours, combining the brands, doing the school visits, being able to cater, whether it's Spanish language learning or, bullying, being that flexible. and available and just giving so much of yourselves is really commendable. That props for doing that. That's awesome. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, a few of the books we actually wrote together. We wrote a counting book together and a coloring book. So when I say 19, some of them are also hers. So it's really about the same.
Got it. Got it.
We love. It's great because we're both doing what we love to do. Like Sherry kind of left a very successful corporate career to do this, and I've been kind of, I guess, in a way, doing it my whole life. I started writing children's books pretty seriously since I was about 15 years old, is when I kind of realized this is kind of what definitely one of the things I loved doing the most and wanted to hopefully try and make a career out of it. So it's, but then again, it didn't happen. It took about 15 years of plugging away at it before finally got that first big book deal.
And that just shows the tenacity. It pays off. I talk to so many authors. They put out one book and they're wondering why they're not on the New York Times bestsellers list. And it is hard work. It takes time. It takes stick-to-itiveness. And I think, too, because of the fact that you are giving and putting things out there, it's just one of those laws of the universe, I guess, I feel. When you put stuff out there, you get it coming back to you. So, again, props for doing that. And you guys also do webinars. You make those available through the Author Learning Center on the website. Can you talk about some of the ways that you help other writers as well?
Yeah. So Sherry and I both have had our own kind of mentoring program because we just had so many authors coming to us asking, how they can kind of start their own author businesses like us, or to get their own agents and publishers, which I, also have a lot of experience with. And there was, I remembered how difficult it was at first, especially when you don't have that kind of foundation and experience in it. So we started kind of just a mentoring program where they could learn about anything pretty much they wanted to learn about the business from us. Signing up and doing kind of video calls like this with them and kind of walking them through the steps, just because it was at least 10 years of serious trial and error in this business to really get to a point where we felt like we knew something and were capable and not wasting a lot of money making mistakes. It's just me and countless other authors, especially, I can count the tens and tens of thousands of dollars that were probably not wisely spent in efforts of marketing, publishing, and whatever it was. Some of them were, you could definitely see benefits from some of the things, but a lot of things I know just weren't. So or illustrating, for instance, another one, like if you're doing children's books. Mm-hmm. So we felt like we have the system kind of down to a point that we can help other authors avoid a lot of those pitfalls that are so easy to fall into if you don't really have the experience and know what you're doing. But we also have a lot of great free content out there from our YouTube channel. We post a ton of videos about almost every subject you can imagine, and the webinars we do, which are really, really intensive and great, like usually 60 to 90 minutes on a certain topic. I just did one yesterday for Author Learning Center that's about maximizing book sales at live events. So when you're starting out as an author, to start to get your name out there, it's all about grassroots marketing and going out there and in person to try and sell your books at wherever it might be, at book festivals, conventions, your own launch parties, whatever it is. So it's using everything we've learned from that to help authors try to really not only think about being a writer, but also a business person, just as much as being a writer, if that's what they're interested in,
Excellent advice. And it can be hard for writers, especially the ones who are a little bit more introvert, when they realize, okay, you have to do your sales, you have to do your marketing, you have to do, in some cases, if you're self-publishing, you have to do at least be knowledgeable of graphic design and file formats and uploading and formatting. It can be so overwhelming. So I think it's so great that you're doing that. And even just being at an event, I got to check out that session you just talked about, because being able to sell your book, talk to people about it in person, all of that is a whole separate skill set that folks need. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something that I feel like I'm this is something I've really learned a lot about, because we do probably live events just about every weekend starting in March. Kind of like we have like a little winter break here. Not many events happen in January, February, but once March hits, it's like every single weekend we're out there selling different awesome events. But it's so great, because like the most rewarding part of it is actually getting to meet your fans and make a lot of new ones at the same time, and grow your brand and your business is through that personal connection, which there's nothing else like it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to segue over to talk about Cubrick's Game, and we're going to lean into the adult side of things a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Cubrick's Game was my first book that I actually wrote for an adult audience. It was something that was a huge passion project of mine for years. I spent about a year and a half researching it, at least 6 months writing the first draft, another 6 months of editing. It's a puzzle adventure novel, kind of similar to Ready Player One or Da Vinci Code. It was described by a lot of critics as a Da Vinci Code for movie buffs. It's about a famous movie director, you might know him, named Stanley Kubrick, who I've been obsessed with since I was 14 years old. I've always been just obsessed with movies. So it posits, what if Stanley Kubrick left behind a mysterious treasure when he died, and the clues to find it are hidden in his movies? So if you're into puzzle solving in movies, you will love this book. I ended up doing a different kind of an in-between thing. I actually went with a hybrid publisher for this book. It was called, there were a lot more back in the day. This may be the only one left, where it was a publisher. It was sort of in between the traditional publisher, but not quite self-publishing, where they do kind of everything a traditional publisher would do, but you probably get less of an advance, but a lot more stake of ownership in it. Which I thought was a pretty good deal for me, because I was very confident in my abilities to sell the book and get it out there marketed. So it ended up doing really well. It hit number one overall on Amazon like 3 different times, I think, and ended up getting optioned for a movie by a really big movie producer shortly after it came out. Unfortunately didn't kind of still trapped in development hell, but it's that was really exciting at the time. One of the best things about it, though, was the audiobook. That's kind of where it's seen most of its life. We had it. The audiobook ended up being narrated by Jonathan Frakes. You might know him from Star Trek, The Next Generation, Riker, and a great movie director himself, doing probably directing my favorite Star Trek movie, First Contact. And Yvette Nicole Brown, who's a pop culture icon from the show Community. You would know her. So I had these two like pop culture, just my favorite actors and directors, and one of both of them, the hilarious comedic actress and Yvette, who did this together, kind of like a little play. And ended up winning a Reader's Favorite Award for Best Fiction Audiobook of 2017 when it came out.
Fabulous.
And that got me really into audiobooks. So after that was my first audiobook that I actually kind of produced myself. And after that, now I started a whole audiobook production studio here at the house, where we're just constantly recording, editing, and putting out lots of audiobooks. It's such a growing revenue stream in the book world. Probably, I think it's growing the fastest between like ebooks and print books. Everything else, like audiobooks, are huge, and I know that's how I listen to read most of my books these days. So it's been fantastic.
You guys are certainly, you are doing so much, a little bit of everything, and you're doing it so well too. Congratulations on all of your many successes. It's really remarkable. What's next? Dare I ask, Derek, what are you working on next?
If you can believe it, I am working right now on my most ambitious project to date, more so than Cubrick Game. This is a project that's probably been over 20 years in the making for me. I'm doing a kind of an epic historical graphic novel. It's kind of based on my family's incredible story of their escape from Russia and Ukraine at the turn of the century. That involves all sorts of insane historical figures and the things happening at the time, from the Russian Revolution to the Russo-Japanese War to going all the way back to shtetl times in the mid 1800s. Just like this crazy epic story that I've been piecing together now and kind of figuring out everything that happened. It's kind of been this long journey for me. And I decided I've never done a graphic novel before, maybe a little bit with my middle grade books that have a lot of illustrations and some comic booky elements, but not like a real graphic novel before. And it's something that I've been also extremely passionate about my whole life. I was kind of obsessed with comic books and comic book collecting when I was a kid. I used to sell them at conventions, my first kind of business that I ever started for myself. And so I wanted to finally do something in that genre because I love what graphic novel storytelling can do in terms of like really creating and putting you inside this world from a different period. And I was super inspired by books like Mouse and Persepolis that did it incredibly well. And so when I read those books, I was just like, oh, wow, what if my story was like in a format like this? And so I'm finally working on that, where I'm just started really the writing. It's been about a year of intensive research. And now I'm just started getting into the actual scripting of it. And I hired an amazing illustrator out of the Ukraine, one of the best graphic novel illustrators there. Igor Karulin will be working on that as soon as my script is done. And so hopefully we're looking at a 2025, 2026 release, probably through one of the traditional publishers, hopefully.
That does sound intense. That sounds like a lot of research, and it's an homage to your family. And it sounds like it's going to be
very personal story, this one. So that's what I'm working on. Sherry has an amazing picture book she's working on right now that should be out by end of the year too. Where as a company, we kind of work on these things together also.
I love that. Well, maybe next time we'll have you and Sherry on together.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing.
We'll do that. I think we did that way back when the first show first started. So I'd love to have you back and have you back for your next book, your next projects. How about if you give everybody your details? Where can people go to find out more about Whimsical World and maybe even find out about booking you for a school event, find your books? Give us all your details.
Oh, thanks so much. Our Whimsical World's website is pretty easy, whimsicalworldbooks.com. I have a personal website also, which is derektaylorkent.com. But through either of those websites, you can get in touch with us if you're interested in a school visit. If you know, we do them all over, both in person and virtually these days, all over the world. We're based in Southern California, so mostly the in-persons will be around there unless the school is going to fly us out somewhere.
Right.
We also have our mailing list sign up at whimsicalworldbooks.com. So if you're an aspiring author, I highly recommend signing up for our fan club, because you can really get a sense of what we do. We send out newsletters, and you'll be able to follow us on our social medias. Also, we're at Whimsical World Books on most platforms, and I'm at Derek Taylor Kent. My wife is at Sherry_Fink. She's really doing most of the social media these days because I just have not had the time with the baby around it.
I hear you. I hear you.
I had to cut something, busy. And that ended up kind of being it for me. But
I hear you.
She's still keeping it up pretty well for us, though. So, but if you're wondering how to build a social media platform as an author, definitely follow my wife, Sherry_Fink, Sheri.
She's got it going on. Yeah. Okay. Derek Taylor Kent, amazing stuff. You and Sherry are just a power couple, especially in the world of literature. Thank you so much for being with us today. This has been just a great conversation about all of your books and everything you've got going on.
Thanks, Desiree. It was awesome.
You bet. And thank you, everybody, for being with us here today on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, get notifications, and never miss a show with an amazing, prolific author like Derek Taylor Kent. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.